Listen, the other story this morning, and it was, and thank you to somebody who actually, uh, sent me the story on my Facebook Messenger page this morning, is that the United Nations has accepted the United Nations, this particular group or grouping of the United Nations based in Geneva rather than in New York, has accepted the complaint of Maori leader Lady Moxon, alleging that the government, the New Zealand government, is responsible for quote unquote significant and persistent discrimination against Maori. In a story written by a New Zealand journalist who has significant left sensibilities, her name is Eva Corlett, Corlett, and she writes continually for the UK Guardian. It used to be known as the Manchester Guardian, it used to be known as the Red Rag actually, because it was had a very, shall we say, red tinge. It's just another word for communism, but it's now renamed itself the Guardian. Anyhow, Eva Corlett, in a story published in the UK Guardian overnight, has quoted Lady Moxon as saying, quote unquote, "We're still fighting for the right to be Maori and live as Maori in our own country." And really, it's if you like, an extraordinary sympathetic piece, broadcast to a significant international and certainly English audience, because the Guardian does have a fair bit of reach, both as a news publication in Britain, but also as an international news publication as well on the line. That the Guardian has decided that Lady Moxon's complaint, and more importantly, the acceptance of the United Nations to hear that complaint, is big news. Now, the other story about this is that now Lady Moxon, and presumably a trench of lawyers and a whole series of people paid for by the New Zealand public, indirectly or directly, will herself travel to Geneva to prosecute her complaint in front of that august body. And if that UN body, who get complaints all the time, in fact they can get a complaint, this is amazing, you and I could complain, that's, but we probably wouldn't get it accepted. Lady Moxon has. She will travel to Geneva to prosecute her complaint, and if that should occur, then the United Nations has the ability to hold the New Zealand government to account and say, please explain, which you'd have to say on the basis of their previous announcements and investigations, they probably will. Lady Moxon says this, and it's quoted in the Guardian story this morning: "Injustice here is incredible. The racism is rife, and there are no checks and balances." And she does an extraordinarily good job of sabotaging, along with the Guardian, and it would appear the United Nations, of sabotaging New Zealand's international reputation for our treatment of ethnicities and cultures in this country. We all know who and what Lady Moxon is. She's a rabid, and that's the only word to describe her, Māori activist with sensibilities and sensitivities that allow her to stray well beyond the realms of reason and rationality. So we all know this woman. She's got significant links into Te Pāti Māori, and she is well connected to John Tamahiri through her work with urban Māori authorities as well. So, there are no surprises here. But that the United Nations has accepted her complaint is extraordinary, given that there is so much disorder, dissent, the derangement of human rights on an international basis, that New Zealand would be right up there amongst countries who do respect the rule of law, who do understand and practice human rights on a daily basis, and who do seek to uplift all folk who live in this country, and who do properly provide equality of opportunity for all, irregardless of gender, of ethnicity, of culture, of religion, who wish to strive and who wish to succeed. And I am proud of the fact that when I look around the rest of the world, and the almost 200 other countries there, that New Zealand would be in the upper echelon of countries that recognise what human rights is and practice it on a daily basis. To the point that obviously, and I raised the police issue, for example, the upper reaches of our society are held to account for their transgressions. Go and try and run the McSkimming case, can I say, in any other Western jurisdiction, let alone the rest of the world. But all I'm just saying is that, so we expect the Lady Moxons of this world to be the saboteurs of New Zealand's international reputation. We expect them to badmouth anything that this government or this country does. Moxon isn't a very bright individual. I mean, seriously, just go and listen to her talk, listen to the rhetoric that she uses, the illogic that supports the irrationality of her argument. And you realize that you're dealing with somebody here whose 5 years at school were very nicely spent, thank you very much, in probably year 8 before she left. I mean, you get that. You get that. But it's not that. Listen, she's entitled to her opinion. She's entitled to her derangement. She's entitled to her disagreement. We don't have any problem with that because, in actual fact, we believe in freedom of thought and speech in this country, and we've got no intention of shutting her down or censoring her, as would happen in probably 80% of all the countries of this world. No. That's not the issue here. The issue is that United Nations consider that a complaint that is so obviously specious, so obviously wrong, so obviously deranged, should now occupy them, that they're going to have a full meeting, a full setting of their complaints council, and they are going presumably to entertain Lady Moxon. I don't know how she got her lady. I assume she married somebody, did she, for that? Lady Moxon and her retinue will be taken seriously, and the New Zealand public or the New Zealand government heard to account. The United Nations has strayed well beyond its brief. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of human rights abuses on a daily scale throughout the planet. But oh no, we'll come here and listen to some deranged Māori woman and her deranged arguments and give it a primacy that allows then New Zealand's reputation to be trashed. And the old story of, if it's on the front page and it's bleeding and it's leading, and in this particular case it is, there must be some sort of truth to it. Bizarre, unnecessary, and really I question, again, as I've questioned so often, the role of the United Nations in any of our lives. Their interference, their stupid special rapporteur status who comes over here and lectures us a bit like Greenpeace, the whole nature of their bureaucracy. I see nothing that advances the sum cause of human civilization. I see none of their intervention in any of the hotspots of the world. I see nothing that they've achieved in last decades of anything to improve the human condition. Isn't it time we just left? I mean, to what end and purpose do we actually have anything to do with this organization? And isn't it time that they, instead of propping up with our fees and our time and our regard, and oh my God, here they are again, the reactions, isn't it time that the Western world just said, abandon it, it hasn't worked, it's full of bureaucrats, a bit like the European Commission, let's go and start all over again.